Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. Four nerds, by nerds, and tonight I'm joined with this nerd. Also, this Nerdarchy Steve. My brain is going too many directions at once. I just totally skipped the introduction.
So I'm Nerdarchy said, how are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
Other than an addled, scrambled brain, wonderful. I feel like that's just my state of existence.
So, is it possible that maybe somebody used a focus point and stunned you?
Maybe it could have happened, or maybe I'm only partially stunned because I passed my saving throw. That's definitely
Oh,
that's definitely a thing we're going to get into tonight. So we're talking about the monk for the 2024 Players Handbook. And I guess we got some things to talk about.
yeah. So, right off the bat, I go into the book on D&D Beyond, and the first thing I see is an amazing picture of a dragonborn monk. Usually, I'll talk about the paragraph, but I had to take a moment and just appreciate the artwork here.
Yeah, it does seem like they're trying to like remove some of the um Asian elements to it and make it more generic with
Yep.
the monk overall, which is fine. I mean, if that's a thing you really want in your game, you can always put that back in. Right off the bat, when we start with the monk, like mostly everything is the same until you get to the features. And then we get some big changes. First of all, martial arts. Um, our minimum die, our die goes from a die 6 all the way up to a die 12. It used to be a die 4 uh, to a die 10. So our top and bottom damages have increased, which is greatly helpful for the monk. And also too, like while I was reading this, I was kind of thinking about the martial arts and the thing that I don't seem this gets used very often when it comes to the monk is players using weapons with their martial arts, right? Because if you
Mhm.
think about it, you can fight with a pair of daggers, but once you hit that certain level, they do a die 12, right? Because you can
Right.
use the martial arts die. But if they're magic daggers that do other things, they'll do the other things still. Only the
Yep.
damage will technically change, and you would still get the bonus to hit and the bonus to damage if they have pluses. So in our games anyway, that's just an observation. I want to keep that in mind for future. One of the other changes is you now can use Dex instead of Strength for grappling and shove attacks. Which before, like we would talk about building a strength-based monk because that wasn't really an option. And a huge thing is monks can and always could make a bonus action attack, but now it does not require the attack action. That's huge.
Indeed.
And it's that's also going to come up, later on with other things. Anything you want to add to the martial arts?
So I would say, uh the fact that their weapon training isn't just, an assortment of weapons. They get simple weapons and anything that has the light property. So they're gonna be able to use more weapons than they used before.
Yeah. I guess so. Just because simple is a much larger list, so they do have more options to them. And again, like you still can use some of the other monk subclasses, like the Kensei, and get even more weapons to add to that as well.
Right. Right.
Unarmored defense, unarmored movement, they're the same. Nothing's changed there. Monk focus used to be key focus. We used to be your key, and now there's a bunch of changes here that really help the monk in an area where I always felt they were lacking.
Yeah, so the monk used to have to spend, their key points. Now focus points, like they were going out of style. Sure, you can do flurry of blows to do two extra attacks. That's normal. Patient defense doesn't cost anything if you want to just do the disengage action. You just, oh, I'm just going to do patient defense. Doesn't cost anything. If you want to do the disengage and dodge action, that'll cost you a point. Step of the Wind is a bonus action, now free. If you want to spend a point, you can disengage and dash. So, your monk is getting all of these extra abilities now that they're doing. And when you kind of compare that to, the rogue's abilities, like it's like, yeah, why can the rogue do all this stuff for free, but the monk can't?
Yeah,
That's kind of dumb.
it's on par, and you could add to it. But and also, flurry blows let you make 2 attacks as a bonus action. Well, you now the way it's worded, matter of fact, any of these, you can use any of these and still use your action to do whatever you want. If you cast spell, for whatever reason you have a spell you want to cast, you can do that. Use the magic action. Want to activate a magic item, you can do that. You want to use a healer's kit, and punch someone in the face twice and use your healer's kit. Like it does give the monk a little bit more versatility and some more interesting things to do.
Yeah.
Next up, we have uncanny metabolism, and my notes say here we should just read it.
Yeah, so uncanny metabolism is amazing. I had to read this several times because I didn't believe it all at first. When you roll initiative, you can regain all expended focus points. Period. I was like, what the frick? When you do so, roll your martial arts die and regain the number of hit points equal to your monk level plus the number rolled. Period. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. Oh, you're out of your focus points? Like, let me have them back.
And get some
Sure, it's at the
healing.
start of the initiative. You have to, choose that you're going to do it. But holy crap, that's powerful.
Yeah, so the only like it helps part of the problem, and part of the problem is as a monk, you just don't have that many. You don't have enough focus points, to do all your cool stuff, and all your abilities kind of rely on them. So now you can get them back as an extra boost at the higher levels. It's going to mean so much more. The only thing that kind of stinks is that phrase when you roll initiative. So like you have to choose going into it. Like, do I want to top off my focus points, or do I want to go through this battle with what I've got?
Yes,
The plus side is Monk still gets them all back after a short rest. So this is infinitely better than what they had before.
correct.
Next up,
So deflect attacks is vastly changed. It used to be like, oh, I could deflect ranged attacks. Now it's like, no. If it's an attack roll, that does bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing, you can use your reaction to deflect it. It's D10 plus your dexterity modifier and your monk level that you reduce it by. And as always, if you reduce it to 0, you can expend a point and redirect that damage back to somebody else. Um, and what's great is you're gonna do damage equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die. So it's technically possible that you do more damage to somebody else than they were going to do to you.
and now you don't make an attack roll using the attack bonus that they previously had. Now they make a 7 saving throw versus a dex.
Yes.
So yes, it is definitely improved and better. Uh, we've got slow fall, which is the same. Uh, Stunning strike got a bit of an upgrade because it used to be it either worked or it didn't. It also got a downgrade because before you could do it as many times you wanted. Now you can do it once per turn. And I think what they realized is many of us would usually burn them to go for the stun or suck away all your legendary resistance in one round if possible, right?
As a person who's watched a lot of streamed games, I'm calling out Bo from Critical Role as a prime example. There was a lot of like, okay, I make an attack and stunning strike. Okay, all right, he passed the save. Okay, I make an attack and stunning strike. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's incredibly useful, but stunned is so powerful that yeah,
I've
one,
definitely had my monsters get stun locked and be like, all right, and their toast because I rolled poorly. In addition to that, if they fail their save or they pass their save, they still have their speed reduced by half, and their next attack against them is at advantage. So instead of just you losing the focus point like you used to before, you get something cool.
yeah, I dig it. It's a give and take. I've not played a lot of monks, but from being on the DM side of things, having to only deal with one potential stun per round, that forces the player to, manage their resources a little bit better rather than turning all monks into like stun engines.
Yeah. So Empowered Strike is what used to be key Empowered Strike, and before it just let you overcome basically your fist or magic weapons. Now you can change. Now you can change the damage to force damage whenever you hit something with your unarmed attacks.
That what does that mean? Like, monks still don't want to fight helmed horrors, right?
Correct. Or they have to beat them with their weapon.
So yeah, that's the only caveat to that change that I can recall.
Yeah, and it only affects their unarmed strengths. That's why as a monk, it's good to carry a weapon.
Yes.
They still have evasion. Evasion's still awesome. It's the same. Stillness of mind, kind of it leaves being stillness of mind, but we're going to revisit that later.
Stillness of mind. I don't see that here.
Yeah, it's gone.
Oh, I'm like, that's why I don't see it.
Yeah. The old monk used to get it. Basically, you could overcome a frightened or a charmed condition as an action, which also had problems because if they're charmed, do they have an action to use to end the charm on themselves? Right?
Hmm.
If someone else is if the vampire charms you and goes, I need you to beat up your friends, we are technically using your action to beat up your friends, so you don't have the action to end the effect. So it was a little weird in my opinion. Ninth
So
level.
they do get something
Yeah, that's why I
equivalent.
figured we revisit it when we got to there. Uh Acrobatic movement is
So
basically used to be just folded into unarmored movement, but it's the part that lets you run across water and up vertical surfaces. So it's cool and it's still there. Uh,
heightened focus improves all of your flurry of blows, patient defense, and step of the wind.
yes,
Um,
it
so
does.
flurry of blows, at this level, you're getting 3 unarmed strikes instead of 2 for just a single point. Awesome.
So
Patient defense. Oh, go ahead.
just real quick with that, that means as a monk at 10th level, you get the most attacks in the game at 5. And
Yes.
also, this is really sweet because now, because they've reworded things, you can flurry your blows as a bonus action, spend your key point while you do other things with your action, right? So,
Yes.
um, like I don't know, technically, couldn't you take the dodge action, right?
Yes.
And it'd be really hard to and still get more attacks than the fighter. Yeah, you're probably not going to do as much damage as the fighter, but
for
still,
for a level, because on an 11th level, the fighter's getting the same amount of 3.
yes. Listen, don't rob them of their glory.
So patient defense, when you expend a focus point to use patient defense, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die. So this is just added on when you're spending that point. Now you get this extra thing. Same with Step of the Wind. When you expend a focus point to Step of the Wind, you can choose a willing creature within 5 feet of yourself that is large or smaller. You move the creature with you until the end of your turn. The creature's movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks.
Yeah, that feels very speedsterish. Um,
Yeah.
so it's kind of cool. I like it, but I just like the fact that now you have so many more focus points than you did before. You have more ways to get them back, and now you're getting more uses from that single point you're spending.
Yeah, and you still have to I'm still loving the fact that it's like, okay, well, patient defense and step of the wind, the core action of, you know, uh, you know, moving or was it dodging?
Yeah,
Um no, sorry, disengage. Disengage or moving as a bonus action just doesn't cost you a key point anymore. And I'm like, dude. So now, once you get to this level, you're getting even more out of the key points or focus points.
yeah. It definitely makes the monk a stronger option than it's been in the past.
So self restoration. This is a new thing, and this is kind of the equivalent of the stillness of mind. Through sheer force of will, you can remove one of the following conditions from yourself at the end of each of your turns: charmed, frightened, or poisoned. In addition, foregoing food and drink doesn't give you levels of exhaustion.
Now that last part, I've not seen that come up particularly much, and that's not what we usually make people roll exhaustion for in our games. But it's there. It's kind of a nice little ribbon thing. But they totally fixed stillness of mind in the sense that it just happens at the end of your turn. You just end those conditions, and they kind of rolled stillness of mind and um, purity of body together because purity of body is gone as well. It used to be immunity to disease and poison. You don't really get that now, but instead, you can at least end the poison condition.
Right. So
Uh,
next up is deflect energy. Uh, now it's like, well, you know what? I don't want to just deal with bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. I'm going to deflect any damage type.
yeah, which is it's funny because we put out a supplement where we like had that we made that an ability because we're like, wouldn't that be cool and very like I don't know Jedi ish.
Yes. So, yeah, people use stuff that we've come up with, but they say great minds think alike.
What I like to think. So next up is this disciplined survivor. It's kind of the same thing, and it's renamed. It was renamed from Diamond Soul. And your physical and mental discipline grant you proficiency in all saving throws. Additionally, whenever you make a saving throw and fail, you can expend a focus point to re-roll it. You must use the new roll. So the same.
So it's still amazing to read. This is like, yeah, I'm proficient in all of them. I'm just awesome.
Yeah, and I can retake a save as well. And at that point, you're what 14th level, so is that like at least a +4? So if you have a really bad save, it's probably a +3. So
Right.
it's not great for certain saves, but for a lot of them, it's not bad. Perfect focus at 15th level. When you roll initiative, not loving the phrase again, and don't use uncanny metabolism, you regain expended focus points until you have 4 if you have lower than 3. Um, which I don't know. The weird that wording to me is weird. Until you have 4, like it's a tick, like they're ticking up or something. But no, you
Yeah.
like
So,
if you have less than 3, you can go to 4.
yes. So it's if you have under 4, you have 4 for every combat. So,
Which
granted, it's not a super high level ability, but it's going to come up a lot if you are using those focus points. As well, you should be if you are a monk. That is what you're there for.
and it's also I would consider this your secondary way of getting them back. You're gonna. I feel like you're gonna use
I would
the
say you're tertiary, but
yeah. But this used to be their freaking capstone ability, I think, for the monk. Like, if not the capstone ability, it was. Oh yeah, it was 20th level. That used to be the ability. You get it at 15th now, which feels less sucky to me. Timeless body gone, and that was basically you just did an age. Physically, you couldn't be aged magically, and when it was your time to die, you still die, but you're like you're perfect health basically.
yeah. Sorry, only druids get that, get to be, forever young.
Yeah. So superior defense at 18th level. The start of your turn, you can expend 3 focus points to bolster yourself against harm for 1. So you have the incapacitated condition. During this time, you have resistance to all damage except force damage, so other monks can still fuck you up. And magic missile. Your
And
bane.
magic missile.
um, but superior defense is actually replacing um empty body. Yeah, empty body. Which it used to be you could spend 4 key points to become invisible for a minute. And during that time, you had a resistance to all damage but force damage. Initially, you could spend 8 key points to cast astral projection spell without needing material components. When you do so, you can't take other creatures with you. So I guess it's kind of a minor downgrade. But with
Yeah, I would
everything
say,
else going on, I'm not too mad about it.
especially when we look at body and mind.
Yeah, like now this is what a capstone ability should be.
You have developed your body and mind to new heights. Your dexterity and wisdom score increases by 4 to a maximum of 25.
Yeah, that's almost as good as getting 4 key points back if you have none at the beginning of a fight.
So, if you are playing a monk and you've maxed out both your wisdom and your dex, so a 24, that's a 7 modifier. So that means you have got a 24 base armor class.
Yeah, yeah, and later on you're gonna see that some monks can actually then take that plus 14 and add it to damage when they do certain things. So it's kind of cool. So subclasses.
So
The
I'm going to start off right off the bat. Way of Mercy. Uh, is this entirely new or is this modified from something before?
It's neither. It's exactly the same as it appeared in either Danathar's or Tasha's. I think it was Tasha's. Like,
Okay, because I remember Way of Mercy, but I don't remember loving it as much as loving everything that's here.
well, it works a lot better with the changes to Monk.
Okay.
Because of you have ways of conserving your key point, or not your they're not key points anymore. Your focus points, get conserved better, you get more of them, so you're going to be able to use these abilities the same, but literally, um, literally these are exactly the same. So there's really nothing to go over. Big Fish custom tackle. Has D&D ever got the monk right? I think this is the closest. Like this is vastly better than any version before. I'll have to check with Trent Monk and see what he says because he always hates the monk.
Which I find amusing since it's Trent Monk.
But yeah, yeah. Well,
And so the next one is Warrior of Shadow.
yeah. This one's got some changes and some upgrades for sure.
You've got the upgrade list. You know,
All right.
you know, Shadow Arts to start it off.
All right. Shadow Arts to start it off. So all right. I'll go over what it did before, and then what we can do now. Before Shadow Arts used to be basically for 2 key points, you could spend 2 key points and cast Darkness, Dark Vision, Pass Without Trace, or Silence without providing material components. Additionally, you gain the Minor Illusion cantrip, which wasn't bad. It's just very dependent on those key points, right? But now, for half the cost, you can cast Darkness.
So you can cast Darkness for 1 point. You can see within the spell's darkness when you cast the spell with this feature. And while it persists, you can move it at the start of each of your turns to a space within 60 feet.
Yeah,
You gain dark vision or increase your dark vision by 60 feet, and the minor illusion cantrip.
yeah. So I like this version very much better.
So, like you lose a couple of spell options, but you're getting more for your focus point.
Yes. Next up is shadow stuff. Basically, dim light or darkness. You can basically teleport, and now the way your shadow arts work now, it's become much easier and more efficient because while you could still do it before, I think at the end of the day, the focus point cost is the thing that really matters, and the fact that you can move your darkness around also kind of greatly enhances, kind of like the flexibility in what you can do. Um, and also, so when your next attack, after you either, I think, yeah, the next
After
attack
you teleport,
you can make an attack with advantage. So
yeah. Now, Shadow Step doesn't cost anything to
no,
teleport. You just do
you just
it.
do it.
Didn't it cost points before?
No, no, it was always that. I'm actually
Okay.
surprised we haven't seen more Way of the Shadow monks in our games. Um, I guess people just don't want to play ninjas. Uh, now the level 11 abilities approve Shadow Step, but it used to be Cloak of Shadows. Um, so when you're in an area of dim light or darkness, you can use an action to become invisible. You remain invisible until you make an attack, cast a spell, or enter an area of bright light. That's what they used to get. Now you can draw on the Shadowfell connection to empower your teleportation. When you use your Shadow Step, expend one focus point to remove the requirement that you must start and end in dim light or darkness. For the use of this feature, as part of the bonus action, you can use an unarmed strike immediately after you teleport. Now, I don't believe that last part requires you to spend the point. It's just if you've used your bonus action to teleport, you can now get an attack when you do it as well.
So I don't know. I would read that as if you're spending the focus point to improve your shadow step, you don't need dim light or darkness, and then when you come out of it.
So you're saying you only get the attack if you spend the point? Is that
Yes.
your thinking?
That was the way I read it, because it's like,
Yeah.
you know, as part of this bonus action, um, so this bonus action is using your improved shadow step. I don't know. I mean,
You're probably right there.
I wouldn't argue harshly. I'm like, look, I don't care. You're using your bonus action to teleport. You want to hit something, get advantage, whatever. I don't care. It's it's not that important to me, but
Mhm.
my initial reaction is it's all lumped into, yes, it's two separate sentences, but
So their capstone ability used to be opportunist, and that is at 17th level. You can exploit a creature's momentary distraction when hit by an attack. When a creature within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack made by a creature other than you, you can use a reaction to make a melee attack against that creature. So you used to be able to get an extra attack as a reaction. You don't get that now. Instead, you get Cloak of Shadows, which we mentioned that was something they used to get, but they're going to get it. And I think it's a bit upgraded though. As a magic action, while entirely within dim light or darkness, you can spend 3 focus points to shroud yourself in shadows for 1 minute till you have the incapacitated condition or till the end of your turn in bright light. While shrouded by these shadows, you gain the following benefits: invisibility. You have you have the invisible condition. So to me, that's not the spell, right? So like as long as you're in dim light or darkness, no matter what you do, you are invisible.
yes,
Whether you attack, whether you cast spells. I don't.
that is my interpretation as well.
Then also you're partially incorporeal, which means you can move through occupied spaces. If you end your turn somewhere, you get shun it. They're just difficult terrain. And Shadow Flurry, you can use your flurry of blows without expending any focus. Uh, but I mean, technically, you just drop three. So, but for a
You drop
combat,
three, so so even if, like, okay, well, I'm going to use 3 rounds of combat,
yeah,
like, well, if I was planning to do that anyway, sure.
yes. And also, like, one of the requirements is you have to stay out of bright light, which isn't too hard because you can put a darkness wherever you want and move it around.
Yep.
So
So
all
all in
that is
all, super
cool.
powerful. I really like it. The monk is a very flavorful class, and all these subclasses definitely are hitting the mark with the with their theme and their powers.
All right, so now we get to the redheaded stepchild of the monk subclasses. Way of the Four Elements. I'm not even going to do a comparison with this one to what it was before because we can basically sum it up as before you were a monk, you could spend your key points to cast spells. You had some cool spells you could use. The problem was never that, the effects and spells that you cast as a monk before. The problem was you just never had enough key points to effectively continuously do it to be cool, to remain cool and flavorful. So after, a couple rounds of combat, you're pretty much done with your key points and you couldn't do the cool stuff anymore. So this version of the monk goes a long way towards fixing that, but on the lower end, but on the upper end, like you're not doing quite as cool things. Like you're not using wall of fire, you're not using water whip, you're not using fireballs. Um, so you do take a bit of you take a bit of a nerfing, but I think over the long haul, this way of the four elements monk or warrior of the elements monk is more balanced. Where the other one
Is
was you.
more.
I was just gonna say real quick, the other one where you could just nova real fast, do a bunch of cool things, but then you were kind of done.
Yeah. So I think this one is more balanced. It still has the flavor. So if there are, I dare I use the word pun, if there are elements of the last one that you really liked that are lost from here, I would just try to like work with your GM to be like, hey, look, can we figure out a way to still do XYZ, whether it be an item, whether it be some kind of boon, whether it be something that I work towards. Anytime you have a major rule set change like this, there's always going to be those things where like, dude, I used to do this. This was my jam,
Yeah.
and now I can't do it anymore. So you got to figure out a way to make it work. So that's the way I would approach this situation. Um, I've seen several different four elements monks played, and in the games that I've been a part of, the DM is found ways to be like, okay, well, how do I slide something in that's going to make things work? And in the game that Dave ran, is like, well, I gave an item that basically doubled the key points because that is what it took for a way of the four elements monk to be doing all of the things, because you could either do your monk stuff or your element stuff, not both.
Yeah.
You just ran dry too quick.
Yeah. So you start off level 3, elemental attunement. At the start of your turn, you expend one focus point to imbue yourself with elemental energy. The energy lasts for 10 minutes or until incapacitated. You gain the following benefits: reach. Now your unarmed strikes have a 10-foot. The reach is 10 foot greater than normal. As energy kind of extends from you, and elemental strikes. Um, Essentially, now you can, instead of doing bludgeoning damage, you can do acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. It's the same amount of damage, but it gives you more options. And also, you can force them to make a strength saving throw, and on a failed save, you can move the target 10 feet either towards you or away from you. So you have some control effects, you have some reach, you do elemental damage instead of regular damage. And you know what? That's going to last the whole entire combat, and it costs you 1 point.
So reading this, I'm like, all right, bugbear four element, warrior of the elements. I'm feeling you.
Yeah, now you can attack at what, 15 feet away?
15 feet away. 15 feet punch.
Yeah, yeah. And then you can push them or pull them however you want. Manipulate elements just gives you access to a cantrip, the elementalism cantrip, which is new. Um, and basically
Yeah,
just
it's
have some.
basically they're all kind of like ribbony things. It's like
Yeah.
elemental prestidigitation.
Yep.
You can beckon air, earth, fire, or water. Whether you do create a thin cloud, a spray, a cool mist, a thin layer of dust. Um, you can make a strong breeze, harmless embers, and colored scented smoke in a 5 foot cube. Fun things, not a whole lot of stuff that's truly combat oriented.
Yeah. Sixth level elemental burst as a magic action. You can expend 2 focus points to cause elemental energy to burst in a 20-foot radius sphere. Center a point with 120 feet. Choose your damage type: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. A creature in the sphere must make a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, creature takes damage equal to 3 rolls of your martial arts die. On a successful save, creature takes half damage. They get to do mini fireballs. I guess that's what are they die eights at 6th level, maybe, and so you're gonna
So
do
3 die 8 in a 20-foot radius sphere. That's pretty nice.
it's not bad. It's only 2 points. You spent your 1 point to take on your form, so you're 3 points in at 6th level. That's half your points. Um, but you're not done yet. And also, while you do this, you could also bonus action make an attack or bonus action flurry of blows. Again, no, then you're at 4 points. So like again, like that's the problem with the monk, and you still kind of see it. But all low level monks have that issue. No matter what, it's always the balance. But it does give them something to do for range, which is sometimes a problem for monk. Although they're generally fast enough to mitigate that. Now, if you add 120 feet and their speed, you know it's going to be mitigated even further.
Sure.
But
So next up is Stride of the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. Fine.
So next up is Stride of the Elements. While you have your elemental attunement is active, you also have a fly speed and a swim speed equal to your speed. So therefore, you're not limited through movement in any way, shape, or form anymore.
Yeah, you've got the ultimate mobility as a monk, and really you get that still under that 1 point. Your 11th level means nothing. Still gives you 10 points to play with. Level 17, their capstone ability is really good, but yeah, again, it's 17th level. But you get damage resistance, which you can switch from round to round. All those energy types that you can attack with, you can now be resistant to, one at a time. Destructive Stride. This is the ability that I think is really awesome. When you use Step of the Wind, your speed increases by 20 feet, which is nice, and you can use Step of the Wind as just as a bonus action. Doesn't require any points. And for the duration, any creature of your choice takes damage equal to one roll of your martial arts die when you enter a space within 5 feet of it. Again, this gives me speedster vibes because they're getting faster, but also you got like lightning or fire shooting off of their body, hitting anyone they run by.
All right, so that was my question here. If I run by 3 enemies, would they all take damage? Is that
Uh,
is that the way you?
for the duration, any
Okay.
creature of your choice takes damage equal to one roll of the martial arts die when you enter a space within 5 feet of it. So, um, matter of fact, if you were to leave, and enter again, they would take it again. The way
Yeah, it
this
says
is
a creature
worded.
can take this damage only once per turn.
Oh, okay, at the very end, yeah.
So yeah, so like I I read through this a couple of times, and I was like, because it's like, okay, any creatures of your choice take damage when you do, but it comes down to semantics. So like
Yeah.
I am willing to interpret it, either direction. But at first I was like, okay, I can do this to a whole bunch of people, right? And then I second guessed myself.
No, absolutely. If you got a battlefield of creatures, then at that point, I don't know if it's a die 10 or a die 12 at that point, but you can do that to as many creatures as you can run by. And really, this just requires your movement and your bonus action. You still have your other actions. Now, granted, it does limit. You can't take your uh three attacks as a bonus action, but you are able to possibly injure a lot of creatures at once, and you still have your two attacks.
Yeah. So like, if you wanted to like mow down a small army of low hit point creatures, you could just be like, I'm just gonna run through all of them.
Well, yeah, you can do that, and then after you get to the other side, toss a fireball behind you.
Yes.
So you got things you can do. And then they're not done now. Empowered strikes once on each of your turns. You can deal extra damage to a target equal to one roll of your martial arts die. When you hit with an unarmed strike, the extra damage is the same type dealt by strike. So now you're increasing the damage of one of your attacks as well. I mean, at 17th level, it's not huge, but
Right.
but it does mitigate the fact that you're giving up your flurry of blows to use your step of the wind.
Oh well, empowered strikes isn't attached to the step of the wind.
No, no. What I'm saying is because you can do basically getting an extra um martial art die worth of damage is like almost the equivalent of hitting again.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I'm saying what I'm saying is it mitigates some of it.
There's nothing to mitigate. If you're in your elemental form, I could be like, okay, I'm gonna spend one point to do 3 attacks with my flurry of blows. I'm gonna take the attack action, so I get 5 attacks, and one of them can basically do double damage.
Yes.
So that's pretty nice. That's essentially like if you hit with all of them, like hitting 6 times.
Yeah. So and well, the other thing too, when when you're using Step of the Wind, that means you're dashing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're moving even more. And at that point, at 17th level, I don't know what the monk's move is, but depending on how many enemies are on the field and how they're positioned, you can run by a lot of people. And if you spend the extra point, they can't take the attack of opportunity against you.
Mm,
And then you could actually use your action to dash again if you wanted to do that instead of making attacks or doing something else or throwing your
sure. So
fireball.
if you're doing a typical 30-foot speed, you would have 80 feet of movement as your speed for doing oh crap, where are you?
75, right? It's 75
Destruct no, it's because you'd get your base speed of 30
plus 25.
uh at 20th level, you're at
Uh,
30, you're at plus
yeah,
30.
but you're at 17th when you get the class feature.
Sure, but I'm maxing it out here. So you know 80 speed for your destructive stride, and you would be able to do that 3 times over the course of your round.
Yeah, I feel like you're gonna run out of enemies before you run out of movement. Unless there is legit a full army on the field. And then there might just not be enough room for you to run by them all. Oh, you can fly.
Yes.
You can fly, so you don't have to worry about running through people. You can just go over them.
Yep, because you're moving within 5 feet of them.
Yeah,
It's yep.
I guess that's a long way for us saying, well, all in all, I think it's an improvement on where you were before with or
Indeed.
way
So
way of the elements.
so do we want to get into open hand?
We should absolutely get an open hand.
All right. So open hand was your, basic monk, and I'm, pretty happy with what we have here.
So it's starting off with your open hand techniques. It's exactly the same as it was before, right? You had your 3 different moves you could do. You could knock people around. You could deny them their attacks of opportunity. And what was the other thing?
Make them pro.
Make them prone, right? All that's the same. Um, but at 6th level, we get wholeness of body, and I think that is a bit different.
So you gain the ability to heal yourself. As a bonus action, you can roll your martial arts die. You regain a number of hit points equal to the number rolled plus your wisdom modifier, a minimum 1. You can use this feature number of times equal to your wisdom mod and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest.
All right. So before it required an action. As an action, your gain hit points equal to 3 times your monk level. You must finish a long rest before you can use this feature again. So essentially, you don't heal quite as much, but you can do it more often, and it doesn't require an action.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think I like this version better because you don't
I
have to
agree.
give up your action,
I would agree.
and also it doesn't cost you points, which is always good.
Not sucking up those focus points is the way these monks are now created.
Yeah, they kind of like realized. I guess that was the problem. So Fleet of Step is kind of new, but it also replaces an ability called Tranquility. When you take the bonus action, other than Step of the Wind, can now use Step of the Wind immediately after the bonus action. So you basically just can always. Is that one the dash?
Yes.
Yeah, you can always just dash.
And the way that is specifically worded, um, you can either use Step of the Wind to just dash as your bonus action in addition to whatever else it is that you are doing, or you can spend the focus point to disengage and dash.
Yes.
So at that level, you can either dash all the time or dash and disengage for the point. Uh, so I think that's going to see a lot more mobility for your open hand monk at those high levels.
I'm gonna have to agree. It's going to make you more mobile. But so technically though, you if you combine, you could always just combine patient defense and Step of the Wind now. Like there's no reason to ever spend. There's no reason to ever spend the extra point on Step of the Wind because you can do
Well,
it
no,
for
because
free.
you can't do both as a bonus action.
Well, you can because if you use your bonus action to disengage from patient defense,
Oh, sorry. Yes,
yeah. So you basically can always so basically you're always going to save that key that focus point now.
yes. Sorry. I was misreading it. So yeah. So yeah. Step of the Wind's secondary feature utterly useless, and yet unless you have something else you really want to do with your bonus action, like I'm going to punch you 3 times. I'll use my attack to punch you twice. Then I use my bonus action to punch you 3 times, and then I'm gonna Step of the Wind and jump 60 feet away where you can't get me.
Yeah. Yeah, you get your attack of opportunity, but
No, no, no. I'm gonna disengage.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. Well,
spend my
not
point.
well, no, not if you punch, not if you use flurry of blows. You don't.
I'll spend my point and do it. I'll spend my point to punch you 3 times.
Yeah,
Then I'll spend my point because I'm still allowed to Step of the Wind because it says so.
I would probably say nah. Uh,
It's all under Step of the Wind.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah, I guess you're right. So you can all, all right. Most mobile monk on the battlefield is definitely this one.
Yeah.
Uh,
What it
that
do?
that is all right. Well, you know what? They're gonna pun for gaining that awesome mobility. When we hit 17th level, they get punished with their quivering palm. So let's read
Yeah.
what I'm going to read what quivering palm used to do.
All right, go for it.
At 17th level, you gain the ability to set up lethal vibrations in someone's body. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can spend 3 key points to start these imperceptible vibrations, which last for a number of days equal to your monk level. The vibrations are harmless unless you use your action to end them to make a Constitution saving throw. If you fail the save, if it fails the save, it's reduced to 0 hit points. If it succeeds, it takes 10 die 10 necrotic damage. You can have only one creature on the effect of this feature at a time. You can choose to end the vibrations harmlessly without using an action. You want to read what it does now?
Yeah, so it's definitely different, though some of the word choice is the same. You gain the ability to set up lethal vibrations in someone's body. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can expend 4 focus points to start these imperceptible vibrations, which last for a number of days equal to your monk level. The vibrations are harmless unless you take an action to end them. Alternatively, when you take the attack action on your turn, you can forego one of the attacks to end the vibrations. To end them, you and the target must be on the same plane of existence. When you end them, the target must make a con saving throw, taking 10 die 12 force damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful one. You can only have one creature under the effect of this feature at a time. You can end the vibrations harmlessly, no action required.
So, a couple things. One, useless against a helm horror. Um, very important to point out. But two, like now when you hit and you want to set it off, it's just an attack action. It's just one of your attacks. It's not your whole action.
Right.
But it does significantly well, not that it does
It doesn't
significant.
just it doesn't just kill them if they fail their
It
save,
doesn't make them
uh,
drop to zero.
you
Um,
know, but 10 die 12 force damage versus, was it 10 die 10 necrotic?
yes. And also, yeah, and it costs a point more now.
And it
But
does
there
cost more points.
and but there was another thing to it too, because before it would just drop you to zero. If you had any kind of resistance or immunities, it didn't matter. It didn't
Right.
affect that. And now, like if you have immunity or resistance to force damage, that comes into play. Before it only came into play if they made their saving throw. So a bit of a nerf. But I suspect what would happen is previously Monk would be like stunning strike, stunning strike, stunning strike. Oh, you're out of legendary resistance, quivering palm. And before that, someone hits them with silvery barbs to give disadvantage or on their next roll, and then they fail their save, and your big bad is now at 0 hit points after the monk took one
So,
round of attacks.
it's a game of mechanics as well as it is, story. And no matter what mechanics you throw out there, there are always people who are going to be looking for, well, how can I put all of these things together to be, really powerful? And I've, you hear the tales of like player characters teaming up with like, okay, well, I'm going to make this thing and you're going to make that thing so that we can do this combo. I mean, they make memes about it, for crying out loud. Um, you know, so, whatever. I don't, I don't care. Like, sure, all right, you drop my guy to zero. Okay, well, which book is it that talks about the mythic monsters? Monsters is a Theros.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not my final form. If you
Mm-hmm.
really have to, you know, bring the challenge. But there's also the philosophy of like, okay, so you made my big bad, you know, cry in the first couple of rounds, and now it's over. Okay, say goodbye to climactic battle. It's all over. Good job.
But yeah, so that's the monk. That's the monk subclasses. Do any of these kind of jump at you like I don't want to play this?
Don't want to play? No. I mean, I was reading through all of it, and I'm like, dude, why am I not playing monks?
Yeah.
Oh, every
Uh,
single every single one of these subclasses, I give the thumbs up to. I would play them all in a heartbeat. Um, of the most, I don't know why I didn't react this way before, but I want to play a mercy monk. I think the cool stuff that they can do here, to heal and to harm, and eventually do both at the same time. Like, yep, sign me up.
well, I mean, that's what Tally played in your game.
Mm-hmm.
You played the Mercy Monk, and it was the same stuff. So, um, I'm just thinking like, Warrior of Shadow, Monk, Devil Sight, Warlock. Unless they've stripped that from the Warlock, I guess they probably not. And a dwarf with Tremor Sense, right? Like you start to put together that party, and who knows what else is there? Where like you could just do the darkness thing, and like
Yep.
half your party it now can fight effectively in the darkness. So if you want to form that the Black Ops adventuring party.
Yeah, that sounds like some fun times to be had.
So, any questions? Feel free to ask them. Ted, where are we going to be showing our ugly mugs?
Our ugly mugs. I mean, I've got a plastic mug right here. But I think you meant where are we going to be? So if you happen to be in the Philly area, either in the December Avenue or January Avenue, PAX Unplugged is the first weekend of December, and Dave and I are going to be there as attendees, walking around, checking out some stuff. Possibly running some games in the the free play area. If you want to check out Zoo Mafia or some D&D and you got a group of buddies with you and our time schedule is allowed, be happy to hang out and roll some funny shaped dice. uh, but failing that, we're also going to be at Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, page 2, the third weekend in January. Like, I think it's the 16th. uh
Sounds
you
accurate
know
to me.
uh It's December 6th and December and January 16th are the dates that I've got in my head. So I hope those things line up. Um, but Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, that's going to be the other convention that Dave and I are going to be at. There we are special guests, along with a massive list of lots of other special guests that are going to be there. So I think they got anybody and everybody they could. So you're going to see more than just our shiny happy faces. So come roll some funny shaped dice. There we do have games on the docket, and again, outside the spectrum of that, we could roll some other funny shaped dice playing some games.
So, what do you think? What do you think would be the best monk to use against the players?
Um, Best monk against the players. I think either open anything but the mercy monk. Open hand has some great mobility, and you start with those higher level things. You could definitely go crazy with lots of mobility and BD power that they just can't work around. Your darkness monk, warrior of shadow, that is robbing them of their ability to see while beating the snot out of them. And the elemental monk, has some AoE that it can drop, as well as as we talked about, being able to be so mobile on the battlefield, hurting everything. So you could do a lot of damage every round just by being present.
Yeah. Well, you might be sleeping on the mercy monk because not only they're able to heal their allies, they can also do extra damage instead and give the poison condition.
Sure.
So I think they all have ways that they can be used and can work. But yeah, as far I feel like a high level elements where you're just like zipping around the battlefield, maybe maybe out of range of most of the melee attackers most of the time. Like the best they can hope for is to set up their reactions to get a attack, and hopefully maybe they can try and trip them or grab them or something. But again, the monk's super mobile, so even that might be challenging to get that off. Again,
So
as you said, the if you want to do the Black Ops group with Way of Shadow, one of them would be annoying, but imagine like six of them where they're all teleporting in, attacking you, and then moving away from you, so that you can't even get the attack of opportunity. You can't
because
ready
you
an
can't say.
action. You can't ready the action to attack someone you can't see.
Yep, yep.
We've learned the hard way when you can't see, there is a lot of spells you just can't cast.
Yeah, I've mucked around with darkness as a DM, and it's pretty evil.
It's yes, it is fairly brutal. So
Uh, before we run away, tomorrow we're going to be back with a new game here on the channel. This is going to be campaign 4 of Zoo Mafia. This time we're in a new location, a new setup. Uh, we're doing things a little bit differently this time. So I am Really looking forward to see what my players are going to get up to this time as we enter Furton City, the first time we're doing Zoo Mafia, not inside a zoo.
Going to be a blast. I am looking forward to playing in your game, Ted. So with that, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.